Has anyone seen this ad recently? It kind of looks like a political ad, if you ask me, even though we're not in election season. It talks about a bunch of problems in Portland, like the ones we've been talking about on this show. Then at the end, it says, quote, "Tell the politicians to do their jobs." And it directs you to a website, peopleforportland.org. So Charlie emailed us because he was curious about this group. And Charlie wrote and said, "Who are these people? They love to advertise," which means someone has money, "during your show." We'll get to the money part in just a minute, but first, I want to answer your question. People for Portland is a nonprofit social welfare organization, which is different than a charity. It means that they do more political activities like advocacy and lobbying. It was founded by two political consultants, one from the Democratic side of things, one from the Republican side. And as you saw in their ad, they don't think our politicians are doing enough to address all of the problems in this city. And they're not just talking about city council or the mayor. They're also talking about state lawmakers with districts touching Portland, as well as the governor and some party leaders who call Portland their hometown. And I talked to these political consultant guys about all of this last week.
And so we need the public to get involved. The biggest danger we have right now, by far, the biggest danger we have is that the public starts to become comfortably numb to the changes in this city. And we need to give people hope that there can be change and a way to express the adamancy of their opinions to force politicians to move. Once you start doing that, you'll find that when you get a couple of things done, cleaning up Portland, getting body cams on police officers, a whole cascade of things will start to follow behind it once people establish momentum.
Okay, here's the thing though. Voters just acted, right? Didn't they just do something? Didn't we just vote? There were a bunch of changes made to city council. Voters made Ted Wheeler the first mayor to get reelected in like 20 years. We passed a bunch of big things like an income tax to fund homeless services, universal preschool, a new police oversight board, a lot of things. Well, the group still polled Portlanders and found out that people don't think that leaders are doing enough even then. They think that more needs to be done, more to address the houseless crisis, more to address police reform and public safety, and to clean up the city. And they don't think that's going to happen the way things are going right now.
The voters of this region have been very generous in giving more time and giving lots more money. They haven't said no yet. Homeless tax, housing bonds, regional, citywide. But how many new housing units for the longer term housing solution are online when you net it out? It's a few hundred over several years because they're using old-fashioned systems to build this stuff, not treating it as if it's an emergency. You can't use the word crisis and emergency in every political speech you give and then not govern with a sense of crisis and emergency.
Now let's go back to Charlie's email for just a minute about the money behind People for Portland. You might have seen the Oregonian publish this story with the headline, "Dark Money Group Launches Campaign to Push Portland Area Leaders for Results on Police Reform, Homelessness, Cleanup Efforts." Now, I know that term dark money sounds kind of insidious, but really what it means is that their donors are anonymous, which you may think is insidious. That's up to you. But it is totally legal. They don't have to report their donations because of their nonprofit status. And we asked the People for Portland about this, and they told us, quote, "People for Portland is legally organized like many other issue advocacy groups, including Planned Parenthood and Basic Rights Oregon, for the purpose of amplifying the voices of others. Just as donors to those other 501c4 organizations are anonymous, so are the donors to People for Portland. Donors don't deserve to be targeted personally for public speech." So there you go. Now, we don't know who is funding them. We'll never know who's funding them unless they tell us, but there you go. If you have any other questions about that group or about any other groups that you hear about out there, let us know. Use that hashtag, #HeyDan.